good afternoon, too, isn't it?
It is.
Welcome to the Orleans gazebo. We're our host, John Ullman, here, and Chris Canega of Orleans. So we'll commence the August 17, 2011 meeting of the Cape Cod Regional Government Assembly of Delegates, and I'll call this meeting to order. This meeting is not being recorded by anyone who's not normally recorded. Okay. Now we'll begin with a moment of silence to honor our troops who have died in service to our country and all those serving our country in the armed forces. Thank you, and now we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk will call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Richard Anderson. Cheryl Andrews. Ronald Bergstrom.
Here.
Leo Kukunis.
Here.
Christopher Canega.
Here.
James Killian.
Here.
Marcia King.
Here.
Thomas Lynch.
Here.
Teresa Martin.
Here.
Deborah McCutcheon. Here. Spiro Mitrakostas.
Here.
John Ullman.
Here.
Paul Pilcher.
Here.
Anthony Scalise.
Here.
Julia Taylor. Mr. Speaker, we have a quorum present with 74.88% of the delegates present, 25.12% absent.
Thank you. Now I'll need approval of the calendar of business.
So moved.
Move in second. No additions or corrections to the calendar. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, have we received the journal? We received the journal
Yes.
August 3rd, 2011. Is there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the journal?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we have communications from the Board of Regional Commissioners. I see the board here. Recognize the chairman of the commissioners, Mr. Doherty.
Oh, cheerful good afternoon to one and all. It's a beautiful day here in Orleans. Welcome, and thank you very much, Chris, and thank you, John, for setting this up for, how long has it been?
13 years.
13 years. Amazing how time flies when you have fun.
Every day has been a perfect day. Well, you know, from the early times.
Yes, every day is absolutely
It
perfect.
never rains on us.
So with that, you might say that we had a wonderful time today. We toured the Lower Cape and saw many of the installations from our cooperative extensions, perhaps the most persistent and visible part of county services. We had an opportunity to see the community gardens in Wellfleet. We had an opportunity to go to Wellfleet Harbor and see some of the agriculture activities. We got an opportunity to visit with some of the shellfish constables. We saw the Dick's, the Dick's deer tick station, where we use my paint rollers to kill the Lyme disease ticks. And I might point out that for those of you who might want to find out more about Lyme disease, if you go to Cape Cod Cooperative Extension.org, you can see more from them on the things that we saw today on Lyme disease and some of the other topics. So with that, so this has been pretty much an information day, and other than meeting to sign off on usual administrative business. That was it.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for the, yes, Marcia?
I will.
And a cheerful good afternoon, Marcia. You're going to ask me about how we made out at the end of the year, which might be on your mind. Oh, I feel the vibrations, information coming through. Okay.
Surf my deal.
Is this a learning experience?
What did they serve on that tour?
Not nearly what I was
He's a joke that I can deal with. Yes.
At the end of the month, the treasurer's report will be complete, and all the information will be revealed to you about that.
Thank you.
Any other questions to ruin this otherwise perfect day?
Tom, did you have a question?
The reports in the paper, though, were they accurate or not? Did you have to make up $800,000 in...
To the best of my knowledge and belief, that is something that I would say that was in flux. I would defer to our administrator as far as the exact numbers. I mean, that's really all I can say about it. Any other?
I have a question for you, Bill.
Who I depended upon keeping your mouth shut.
Obviously, I've attended many of these meetings. We should ask for in regard to the previous two questions, is there a time when you and the other commissioners will review the current financial situation and not only advise us, but decide whether you're going to take steps to either, make cuts or so on? I'm looking for a time frame. 3 months, 4 months, a certain number. Is there anything been decided?
I think the one thing we all look for in life is a degree of predictability, which I can't give you. But I will say that I think it would be useful if we waited for the first quarter to go by to see how that compared to the first quarter of last year. Variance reporting and variance analysis is something that we do on an ongoing basis and don't wait for a report.
So I'm just looking at whether you're going to take a time. Anything else from commissioners? Quiet bunch here.
Just a little,
John.
just a little more detail. So you're going to wait till after the first quarter? And this is talking to the county administrator, going to have to wait till after the first 3 months to make any decisions on if you need to cut?
I think that in running business, and everything that every private sector is the same way, if we were to see what I would call a significantly large drop in revenue, we would be obligated to look at that almost immediately. However, my experience, both at the county and before that, has always told me that you need to have a sufficient interval in order to perform an analysis to give you as much forecasting predictability as possible. Now, some people say that the information that you might have received as far as activity might be an obituary, because that is what has happened in the past, and sometimes that's not an indicator of what might happen in the future. But I would suggest to you that since we depend to a great deal on real estate income and fees from the registry of deeds, we have to look at what kind of activity is there and work very closely with Jack Mead and the figures that he gets as far as coming up with what I would call figures that we could look at, that we'd have a reasonable degree of certitude that we could have confidence in the report. We don't have that.
Actually, he did. He came to get to us in May, and he gave us a very dire prediction, and which is after 1 month coming true. We were down 16.4%. I read it in the Barnstable Patriot, so it must be true.
I never knew them to lie. That is true. It is something that
And this is predictable that your own Register of Deeds predicted, and it seems to be coming true, and it's
the Register of Deeds did make a prediction. However, we are watching very closely, and as I said, we'll look at it as it goes forward. If this trend continues, naturally we'd have to take a look and revise our opinion with regard to when to act, if to act at all. So we're watching very closely.
The other thing, Bill, is that I understand that sometimes it's difficult, but neither Mark nor Maggie nor anyone was here for the public hearing on the budget request, the budget transfer. Unfortunately, that pushes us forward and starts to knock up against other things that we have to do. I mean, it's not that there's a rush on that, but we're doing other stuff. So now, basically, the domino theory, everything is pushed forward. I think we can get him here the next time we have a meeting.
Well, the next time we have a meeting is September 7th, and he will be here along with the Treasurer's report. I'm sure he will be available at that time. We made every effort to have something here for that hearing, and unfortunately, traffic being what it is, Sheila and Pat were not able to get here in time.
I know it would mean a long commute from our here wherever it goes after. Anyway, it's not important.
It must be important to mention.
Well,
We'll do our best to make sure that you hear.
Marcia?
Mr. Speaker, based on what Commissioner Doherty's saying is that they want to review it after the first quarter, which I don't disagree. Then can I ask that on the first meeting after the end of every quarter, that we put on the agenda either Jack Mead himself and or Mark, and I think it should be of the first meeting in October, the first meeting of the next end of the quarter, because if this isn't how we're starting the year, the fiscal year, I'm concerned what's going to start happening, and I think in the past I've asked for reports and we've gotten them, sometimes you don't get them, whatever, but I would actually like to have the first meeting in October, have Jack come in and give his opinion, since it was quite different than Mark's during the budget.
Well, I would pass that request on to the commissioners. We'll probably we are, so they can, he's your employee, okay. Tell him to do this.
He's a special employee since he's elected independently.
You can ask Jack.
I'm sure that he'd show up. And actually, Janice could probably, arrange for Jack Mead to show up. We'll be responsible for getting the outfit.
Anything else? Yes, Tom.
Since this is an information day,
Yeah.
and following up on
I thought
our
this
earlier
was
question.
go down here and have a couple of plans and plans.
A minute. Following up on a question that earlier the speaker was asking. As you're going through the budgetary year, and we're taking the last one now, your revenues fall $800,000. Let's say they fall $800,000 short. At the end of the second quarter, third quarter, is Mark making recommendations to the commissioners that you endorse, or does he have the ability to simply say, I'm not spending this money at this point in time? Or does he always come back to you to say, I've decided that we're not going to, you've got to say
right there. When he says, I've decided, remember, responsibility lies with the three of us. So as far as spending any money, that would be, as far as spending or not spending, or making those hard decisions at the time that they occur, that is our responsibility. And we will indeed take that steps when we are faced with that situation.
So are you telling me then at no point in FY11 did you have a point where you needed to have that discussion because they're $800,000 short of revenue?
When the $800,000 shortage is, in looking at this figure, I think you have to consider that a treasurer's report, which will show, I think, a broader picture, so it's not just that particular amount of money. But what kind of fiscal responsibility will we have if we didn't continue to look at it? I think the responsibility...
I'm just wondering how a citizen or even a delegate would be able to participate and see that, go back and say, okay, at the meeting in March, here's when we start having a discussion saying, look, our revenues are 8 to 10% off here, and we want to start putting some brakes on stuff because we've only got 4 months left here to begin to slow stuff down. So we're taking these actions, or we're not filling filling positions, or we've got vacancies that we know are coming up. I'm just wondering when those discussions took place.
When it is appropriate to make those discussions will take place. And it obviously would be on the agenda, so you'd be able to follow them.
Speaker. And just another point of information is the commissioners can make cuts. They can not expend funds, but the question is, what do they do with those funds that are not expended? If they transfer them into another account, then it's going to come in front of us. So that's what I'm looking for. I would rather, just once again, I would rather not die the death of 1,000 cuts. I'd rather have a time certain that the commissioners come back to us with an adjusted budget, including whatever cuts or transfers they would make. That's up to you, but it would be easier for us, and it would be easier for people to understand. Yes.
I'd like to amplify Tom's point. The county seems to have collected $1 million less than anticipated. So what we would be looking for in the treasurer's report is, where did we spend $1 million less? Or if we did not, where did that money come from? The treasurer's report will wait for the treasurer. Going forward is a separate issue. We budgeted monies for FY12 based on a FY11 revenue number, which didn't cover in past. revenues of FY12 to potentially $2 million in the hole before you start making adjustments. The concern with the Assembly, I believe, is that if you wait too long, you'll never be able to make that size reduction in expense.
I hear that, and I will say again, in watching very closely, and if there is a significant fall off before the end of the first quarter, we would have to address it. Any variance reporting, is something that we have to look at, because we have the responsibility of operating the services. If we're losing revenue, we can't do I don't believe we are allowed to do this on spec. We have to do it based upon what we have available or not. So if that does significantly deteriorate, then probably we would act sooner than I'm suggesting. But in every operation that I've ever been involved with, you need what I would call a significant interval in order to match your behavior based upon what you have signed up for as far as an operational activity. So right now, it has been a fall off in the first month. However, we are August now. So I think that Marcia has asked for some kind of report that needed at the beginning of October. And I think that we'll all learn more about the facts as we understand them. The next step is we have to start thinking about how much confidence do we have in our forecast once we have some those are all things that I can always do. But at the time, it's appropriate to correct. If any cases, we would.
Now, we've probably gone as far as we should in this, considering the agenda item, but I'll recognize Leo. It's all right. Leo? All right, well, to be continued.
Are there any other?
I would say thank you and sit down.
Thank you. We're now communicating. Do we have any communications from public officials? Do we have any communications from members of the public? First, I'll get George. You're up, George.
Guys, public officials. I think we missed a public official.
Did I miss a public official? Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I have to back up a little.
Okay.
All right, thanks. I'm Heather Matthew, Natural Resource Specialist at Cape Cod Commission. Jessica Wilgus and I are here today to deliver proposed implementing regulations for the Cape Cod Ocean Management Planning District of Critical Planning Concern. The delivery of these proposed regulations to you is the culmination of a year's worth of planning, work with a committee comprised of representatives of all the Cape towns, and we're looking forward to discussing these regulations with you at a future meeting. The Cape Cod Commission did vote to forward these to you at their July 21st meeting. So I have them here. We've actually submitted them to Jan's.
Okay, we'll have a public hearing before government regs on that, either before or after the continuation of the public hearing on the budget transfer, which will probably be next meeting on the 7th.
On the 7th. Very good. Good. Thanks.
George.
Can you hear me okay?
You're doing great, Bert. Would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Ladies and gentlemen. George, they want to know who you are.
Identify yourself.
Identify yourself for the public. My name is George Ryan, and I've been attending the Constable County Human Services Advisory Council. The one that was supposed to take place in June did not, and it was supposed to end until July, which is unusual. The Advisory Council usually skips the 2 summer months, July and June. And so we met on July 28th at the Transportation Center in Hyannis. There were no major expositions as we usually have 1 or 2 at these meetings. First, there was an update.
Will you try and speak a little louder, please? A little louder, please.
First, there was an update on the regional data And Christine Stein, who replaced Warren Smith, was there to review that. And she had two of the research fellows and interns who had worked with the county over the summer in the Human Services Office, and they made presentations as well. Christine is still going through the Department of Public Health vital records, those on substance abuse, those on behavior risk factors, and youth risk behavior. And we'll put all of that together fairly soon. As you know, the book of statistics is quite thick, and the department is constantly adding to it as new data becomes available, especially the material that we developed during the 2010 census. Also, they're compiling emergency room visits and hospital discharges. As a matter of interest,
A little louder,
as a matter of interest, admissions for alcohol abuse, heroin, and other drugs have appeared. The Cape, Barnstable County, has a higher admissions rate per capita than Massachusetts. For heroin, which is the other big one, the other drugs are fairly small. Massachusetts has a higher admission for heroin problems than the Cape. And the heroin is approximately twice, alcohol is approximately, admission is approximately twice that of heroin. I remember 30 years ago when heroin started to become a problem on the Cape, it was mainly centered in Provincetown, where the fishermen were getting heroin from the Bedford, which has always been a major source for that sort of drug and a major source of the problem. It's died down in Provincetown, but in New Bedford it's still a major factor. I got lost in the city of New Bedford during the winter and ended up at the Metrodome clinic area, and there were over 100 cars in the parking lot. And people were going around telling me not to take pictures. So hyenas can feel a little bit mucky, I guess. But it's not going to end, of course. I've known men who were fishermen who were engaged heroin 30 years ago, succeeded in kicking up some dragons for that. A second discussion took place about the Health and Human Services Advisory Council. You know, was initiated by ordinance in 2002. And they're going to, the group is going to continue to discuss what they think they should be doing, and possibly come to you with a suggestion for a change in the ordinance. There were 28 people at the meeting, and Sheila was there, and it's the same group, and I think that they represent almost all of the human services functions on the place. Very lucky to have it. It's good to be back here.
Good to see you, George.
I have a friend named Billy from Ashby, and he asked me if I've ever been to Nauset Beach clam shack. I said, yes, I have. He said they're the best fried clams on the whole Cape. John says that they just won the 2011 prize.
Woo! John is the Lord of the Rings. He must be in Middle Earth, right?
Thank you very very much.
That must be frozen.
There will not be a meeting next month, so I'll be back in a couple of months.
Now, I saw another hand up for communications from members of the public. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Mitch Rellin. I'm a Brewster resident. As you know, I sent a petition to the members of the county commission, and I sent each of you a member of that petition. The petition I am asking that the county commissioners refer the Brewster Wind Energy Project to the Cape Cod Commission for review under DRI implications. And I'm asking the Assembly to recommend that the commissioners do make that referral. I would just like to take a few moments to reiterate some of the points that I added in my letter, and I have hard documents for each of the commissions. In April, the Assembly, you approved Cape Cod Commission's minimum performance standards to be able to review and regulate possible large impact over multi-municipalities, and this project fits that situation. You did not approve the threshold of 65 feet, but at that meeting it appeared to me at least that most of the Assembly delegates felt that there needed to be some threshold for an automatic trigger. You didn't agree on 65 feet, maybe 100 feet, maybe 150 feet, maybe 200 feet, perhaps 300 feet. The proposed project in Brewster would still meet that trigger at 410 feet. This is clearly, it seems to me, an example of what a DRI is all about, and why the minimum performance standards were established. I am not asking the Commission nor the Assembly to pass judgment on this project. I'm asking, and 50 signatories who live in Brewster are asking, that this needs to be reviewed by the Commission. This is why it seems to me the Commission was established for these kinds of issues, and why you pass the minimum performance standards. Some have said that this is a continuation of the Brewster project that was initiated back in November of 2010. It is not a new project, and Chris Sane has sent to the Cape Cod Commission a letter with his opinion about that. In February, the Special Permit Granting Authority in Brewster, the Planning Board, denied the application for the project. CVEC had the opportunity, as part of their application, to appeal that decision. They chose not to do that. That was the end of that whole process for application and possibility of appeal. In conjunction, or at least the Brewster Board of Selectmen decided to try to change bylaws in May at special town meeting in order to place the project by right. It did not reach the 2/3 majority necessary to change a bylaw. It's not what the Brewster residents wanted. CVEC has announced twice that they are going to the State Department of Public Utilities to ask for an exemption of any and all local permitting. It seems to me that if they are successful in bypassing local permitting, and indeed bypassing county regulations and review, that the future would be dim for any other projects that have DRI implications. You and the Commission are our county governance. Why any project like this would not be referred automatically without even, quite honestly, being asked.
I don't mean to interrupt.
Sure.
If you go too far down the road, you really discuss. It becomes more of a substantial discussion.
Thank you.
Justified by this. I will put this this, there will be a response. In other words, I will bring up this matter before the Assembly at our next meeting, and you will get a response to your request, okay, at some point.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sorry to interrupt you. Under the new rules, I have to be careful. Okay, any other members of the public wish to speak? Hearing none, the Assembly will now convene and we'll begin with reports of committees. Mr. Owen.
Speaker, yes, I have to run out. Could I ask Mr. Owen to call for the vote on the minutes that we have to approve, because I believe if I leave, then we won't have to call it.
Okay, we can do that right now.
Because it is on the agenda. I think this report, because I think it was only Marsha and I were there, I think.
Tom was there.
That's not today. This was the one we already did.
All right, well, hang in there, Leo.
Marcia, Leo, and I
Right.
were there.
So we don't have any.
Right.
That was not posted in the road, and 7 already passed.
I would like to get confirmation on that we agreed to the Stanley report on the Standing Committee of Finance on proposed ordinance 1107 on July 20th. I want approval of the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
The Finance Committee appeared today. We had a public hearing today to discuss proposed ordinance 1108, which is essentially to take $35,000 out of statutory reserves, 2012 statutory reserves for a pesticide fertilizer inventory. We were hopeful that someone from the county would be able to enlighten us as to the details of this and the necessity of it. And because at that point in time, no one was here to do that, and we had several questions, we voted unanimously to table that until our next meeting. And hopefully we can put that on the agenda and get do a certain date quickly to review that.
Okay. Any other, I don't think there's been any other meetings, those committee meetings. We now have a report from the clerk.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to be brief, I just want to publicly thank my neighbor. I'll do that when she gets back into town. And Mrs. Agnes Chatham for the opportunity to bring these lovely hydrangeas today. There was such an effort to make everything just right. I wanted to add my own touch, and I think they're probably the last blooming hydrangeas on Cape Cod, especially the lovely Nico bloom. They're just fabulous, quintessential Cape Cod. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay. I sent out a request to see who would like to be on a subcommittee to discuss feedback and Cape Light Compact and other issues. It was an easy decision who to be on the committee because most people said no. Okay, so fortunately we have a few people stood in place while everybody else stepped back. And so the committee, and I waited to present this information out because I want to discuss the time frame for people who volunteer. But as it stands now, it's going to be myself, Jim Killian, John Ullman, Deborah McCutcheon, and Leo. And we'd like to do this as quickly as possible and as easily as possible, given the time, within a short time frame. So I was hoping to begin on the 7th, but unfortunately we have a subcommittee meeting of the Finance Committee. We also have those regs that the Commission discussed with us coming before us on the Government Committee, so it's not going to be possible to start the 7th, so we're going to have to look for the 21st. And I don't anticipate, although I have discussed with the other members of the committee, I don't discuss this to be a long process. It's going to be, and I'm hoping that we can get all the information that we need before we even sit down for the first meeting, so we'll not have to go over all ground. Once again, it's going to be basically run by the members of the Assembly. Anybody's entitled to come and pay attention. If you have any particular questions, you can contact members of the committee. So that's where we stand on that. Yes.
Were any of the members that are last meeting voted no at that last meeting, whether we had this meeting?
Yes, John Porter. Emphatically. Actually, it was suggested by one of the delegates that I should only appoint people who said yes. It didn't work out that way. Okay, do we have any other business to be brought before? Yes, John.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to, before we close the meeting, to invite everybody that's here today for some fine dining in Liam's at Nauset Beach, approximately 150 yards south from here. You're all welcome to come.
Okay.
Including my friends from the past assemblies.
Anything else? Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Right, right down on this one.